Hello, my name is Rhiannon Montgomery, and I will be doing my windshield survey on Newport Beach, which is my upper middle class, and the lower income class is Santa Ana. The boundaries of Santa Ana, it is a lower income housing area. There are parts of it, though, that have been restored for historical sites to keep the original buildings that you can see, but the neighborhoods aren't clearly defined with signs or anything like that. Newport Beach is geographically separated by boundaries. There is a hill that comes into the city, and it is guarded off in a way by a peninsula, and then there's an actual island, Lido Island, that you have to get to by car ferry. There are unincorporated cities such as Coto de Caza, which is a very, very expensive area. And for the housing and zoning areas, we have Santa Ana, which is buildings from the early 1900s. Like I said, a lot of historically restored buildings and single-family homes, a lot of one-story homes, kind of brown, all similar shape and style. As you can see from the picture, not very clean looking, whereas Newport Beach, very bright, manicured. Even though it is an older city, it's very newly redone. The faces of the buildings are very clean. There's large plots of these large homes, and then each home is different. There's no track housing as you would see in Santa Ana, and the driveways are very open. Signs of decay were very obvious in Santa Ana. There were trash throughout the streets, trash cans on the sides of the streets, just loose, empty trash. There was graffiti, as you can see from the walls. A lot of older cars from like the 90s, early 2000s. A lot of open lots with trash there, not really any new building going on. In Newport Beach, everything was very, very open and clean. The center dividers were manicured. A lot of very nice cars, a lot of car dealerships that were Ferraris, Lexus, things like that, and a lot of new building going on. In Santa Ana, there were a lot of parks, but it didn't seem that they were being used for taking your dog to or having kids play with. The equipment there was very old, and it was frequented by a lot of homeless people. It was pretty run down, a lot of trash, overgrown trees. Wasn't very bright. In Newport, there were parks, but they were kind of far away from the main streets, and there were smaller ones, and they would be at the top of hills, kind of where people would walk their dogs, or you could see people working out on the steps or benches, things like that. Common areas for Santa Ana, a lot of people frequented the downtown area, which was a lot nicer than the zip code that I looked at in particular. Like I said, there were lots and lots of parks, and those parks in Santa Ana were larger in area than in Newport. And it did seem like there were some streets or areas that were designated as homeless areas just because of the frequency and amount of people, but they weren't actually designated with signs. Newport Beach, the common areas were Fashion Island, South Coast Plaza, and the Lab, which were all shopping and eating areas. A lot of people obviously went to the beach. There were cafes, and that were all based around being outside, so a lot of patios, things where you're outside, boating activities, a lot of people biking. No signs, designation of who can and can't go there except certain docks that would only let boat owners get into. In Santa Ana, there were a lot of chain restaurants and stores, 99-cent only stores, Ralph's, things like that. The streets were small and not as manicured. There were a lot of billboards and signs on bus stops, on sides of buildings, billboards, everything like that, and a lot of them were in Spanish. They consist of insurance ads, cash advancements, and a lot of food, chain food restaurants. In Newport, there were a lot of health-based food restaurants and a lot of organic-based ones. There were um, gyms based on cycling, yoga, Pilates, kind of expensive boutique sort of gyms. The stores were boutiques for clothing. Everyone drove. It didn't seem like there was a lot of public transportation. I could barely find any buses. There were people on bicycles, but it was concentrated more towards the beach areas, and there were barely any billboards. Service centers were more prevalent in Santa Ana. A lot of urgent cares on every couple of blocks or so. And then smaller, like one-story community hospitals. There were a lot of schools visible with, it seemed like, a larger population of children there, and minimum amount of activity like gyms. In Newport, I couldn't really find any public service centers, such as employment offices, but there were a lot of health promotion activities. So supplement stores like vitamins, anything health related. They have IV hydration places for if you work out a lot or just want an extra hydration, you could pay for the IV therapy. And there weren't very many schools visible on the major streets. You had to go back into the neighborhoods to find them. In Santa Ana, the people there did seem like there were a lot of people walking around during the day. They were middle-aged and kind of homeless population, casual attire, dirty, kind of like they've been wearing the same clothes maybe a couple days, unkempt. The dogs that were outside didn't seem like they were going on a run with someone. It kind of like they were maybe stray dogs. They were on leashes. The people did seem that they were lower class. They were non-working since it was in the middle of the week, in the middle of the day. Didn't really seem like they have a sense of purpose in where they were going. And the people that I did see walking around were dressed in the attire as if they were going to work for fast food chains or public transportation. In Newport Beach, there were a lot of cars outside and a few bikes, but they were bikers, like cyclists. The people walking around they saw going into stores were dressed in business attire. They were very clean, well manicured. Seemed like they were in a hurry to go somewhere. It seemed like it was a big society based on, like I said, health and fitness, clean eating. There were people, like I said, dressed up in suits. In Santa Ana, there were a lot of fire stations prevalent. I didn't see many police stations, but I did see a lot of police cars driving around. And politics, there were some, but they were in Spanish mostly, so it was a little more difficult to read. In Newport, the fire and police stations were off the main roads, but it did seem I could see that they were around. No real political signs anywhere or major influences. In Santa Ana, it was a primarily Hispanic community. Like I said, most of the signs and billboards were in Spanish. There were a lot of churches, and they were Catholic-based. There were mostly Mexican restaurants, a lot of Asians as well, but mostly Mexicans and a lot of fast food. The churches seemed to be multi-use, so there were signs of community events coming up or community service-based, or that they were multi-purpose. In Newport Beach, it was definitely primarily Caucasian. A few Asians, but mostly, like I said, Caucasians. Every sign was in English. The restaurants were kind of a little bit all different, but if they were of different ethnic diversities, they were more Americanized. Not very many visible churches here. I did see one, but it was kind of packed away, and you couldn't really tell that it was a church unless you looked more in depth. For Santa Ana, like I said, there was a lot of trash on the streets, and a lot of those trash bags contained of alcohol bottles. You can see them where they were in brown bags. There were a lot of dialysis clinics, so kidney disease, diabetes. There were dispensaries or billboards for dispensaries, marijuana. In Newport Beach, it was mostly, there were a lot of rehab, detox drug facilities, sober living, and it was almost like a trend of like ocean living treatment, the way that they were marketed. It was definitely a community that promotes health and wellness with all the specialty gyms, health foods, and supplements. The stakeholders in Santa Ana, first one was a population, Carla. She believed that the health problem was obesity. She noticed that the kids didn't really have very many options, so they kind of grew up with that. And there weren't really many safe places to be active in her neighborhood. Diane was the nurse practitioner in that area, and she believed that the health problems that she noticed was diabetes and alcohol, kind of similar to Carla. Poor choices in food, and also young pregnancy rates. She believed that there should be an increase in education available and just teaching people. So she knew of WIC and Planned Parenthood, but she said a lot of people weren't aware that they were available or what they contained or if they were eligible for those programs. In Newport Beach, population stakeholder was Katrina. She believed that the health problem was that there are too many health fads, and you could see this prevalent everywhere. She kind of was concerned about if people are researching them enough. And she believed that the younger generations were at risk. She said many opportunities to improve health, active community, and it's a bike-friendly city. Patty was our key stakeholder. She believed our health problem was that there's a large opioid dependency since Newport Beach is the city with the highest amount of drug rehab facilities in the nation. Most at risk are youth in their 20s or 30s. They fail the detox program and they're put on the street and they kind of frequent that area. They're so prevalent. She believes that the services needed to help are people that aren't successful from these programs, what they can do from there. And my references was from the Orange County government. Thank you very much.